What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Callville Bay. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, the plan for today's video was going to be to go to one of the city park ponds and go do some fishing, but for some reason I didn't feel like it. It's very important for us anglers. The way you feel about what you're doing is very important. If you don't feel good about the fishing, you're not going to catch fish. So for that reason, made my way out here to Callville Bay, and that means we're going to have to hike a lot, and there's a big possibility of getting skunked. But it's something I want to do, so we're going to go fishing out there today. Alright, so I'm using fluorocarbon line, clear line for the clear waters we're fishing, and I'm going to be throwing around all sorts of lures. On here I have a little paddle tail at first. Going to see if there's maybe some bass being aggressive or territorial, so I'm going to throw around some paddle tails. And on my second rod, got a shaky head, some robo worms, also have a few Ned rigs and stuff. This is my worm rod, general idea, targeting some bass. They are only allowed to use 2 rods per licensed angler, but I have a third rod with me. That is just if I need to swap out some setups, if I'm looking for something a bit more sturdy, I have a third rod with me. It's not like I'm going to be using 2 rods at the same time. I'm only using 1 rod at a single time. And from above here, I can see there are quite a lot of carp in this area. You'd expect that this little flat area would be a great place to find carp, but there's also quite a lot of structure in the water, thinking that's great places for some bass to be hiding. So I'm going to walk around this area, make a few casts, see if we get anything, but the main plan is going to be hiking out of the coves into some deeper water, trying to see if we can find some bass. But from on top of the hill here, we're not going to get anything, so I think we need to make it down to the water, start fishing. Alright, ladies and gents, we have ourselves a nice largemouth bass. Lots of good looking water, casted it out into deep water. A little shaky head down on the bottom, and we got ourselves a fish. I don't want him to jump out of the water like that, because then there's a chance of him spitting the hook. But shaky heads aren't heavyweights, so they don't tend to come out that easily. Just want this fish to be completely tired before we land him. Well, not completely tired, but tired enough to land him. Didn't bring my net, but we do have the little lip grips. And there we go. Decent largemouth bass, some weight to him. You can see we have him hooked in the top of the lip there. He wasn't gonna get that hook out that easily. Nice, decent largemouth bass. Lovely colors on him. Let's just quickly get him some oxygen again. Alright, so that's a 2.93 pound bass. It's going to be 1.3 kilograms. Decent big fish. Just wanted to get a weight on him because he has a bit of a belly. He's not that tall or that long, but he has some weight to him. Decent fish preparing for spawn, I think. So let's get him back to the water. And there he goes, straight back down in the direction where I got him from. So maybe that's a male sitting on a bed, I don't know. But decent fish, good catch for our first fish of the day. We have lots of good structure and places for fish to be hiding, but it's rather shallow on that side, whereas right here we have a deep drop off. It's a lot deeper water on this side. So I was thinking, if the fish aren't up shallow, they may be in this deeper water. So that's why we're fishing around here. Let's see if we get some more. Alright guys, just quickly want to give a bit of an update. Been throwing around this little paddle tail and it's been doing pretty well. I've got 3 or 4 short strikes where they grab the back part, they don't get the hook. And I've seen one, I think 3-pounder, following this little thing in to the point where I could see the fish right here in front of me. So this thing is getting some interest, but I'm just not hooking up on the fish. And this is where I'm not experienced enough to know what type of change to be making to get the fish that I'm seeing. If I go for something with like treble hooks at the back, I'm going to get snagged on these grass. A lot of grass under the water here. So going for something like treble hooks or a little square bill or something may get the fish to bite, but I might get snagged as well. Luckily we have an entire tackle box full of lures. I'm going to swap out to some different lures and we see if we get anything. Alright guys, I don't always know what to put in the videos. I've now spent an hour and a half fishing on this side. I could see some bass and I was targeting them deliberately with all sorts of lures. Swapped out to all sorts of different worms and stuff. Couldn't get them to bite. And that's the thing, I'm not putting all the hours spent not catching fish in these videos. I mean, we want it for some entertainment. We want to see some fish. So there's a lot of time, a lot of cost spending just casting around looking for some fish. But that does bring up one important thing. Why am I focusing on the fish that I'm seeing? Well, quite simple. For a bank angler, it is very important to try and catch the fish you can see. I have a little carp swimming by here. But if you're on a boat, you cover a lot of water and you're looking for that fish willing to go for the lure you have tied on. Whereas as a bank angler, you have a lot less water that you can cover. So if you do find fish, it helps to try and make small subtle changes to your baits and lures to see if you can get that fish to commit to one of them. Now that is why I'm spending a lot of time focusing on the fish that I can see rather than continuously moving around trying to find new fish. But as it gets later into the day, chances of catching fish goes down a bit. So maybe I need to walk around, start looking for those specific fish, the ones on beds. We have a bunch of baby little fish. And right here, next to the little dock in the water, there's a ton of little fish. You would think there would be a bigger bass or something around protecting these fish, but I'm not seeing him at the moment. But it is very important that if we do catch the males protecting the little babies, that we do release them. Just had a little bass chase my lure, but at the last moment he turned away, so I'm thinking this bright pink color scared him off. So maybe changing out the Ned rig. But before we do that, I'm going to make a few casts around, see if there's any other fish around. Alright ladies and gents, cast it into a bit of deeper water right off the point, and as expected, that's where we found a fish. I also have a carp right here next to me. But let's see if we can land this little fish. Haven't changed colors yet, still have that pinkish one. Thought I'd make a few casts before we change out the little lure. This has to be a little smallmouth bass because it's putting up quite a decent fight. I think pound for pound, smallmouth fight better. quite a feisty little guy. And there we are, nice little smallmouth bass. This one has a dark spot on his head and some dark lips, but we got him on a little Ned rig. Quickly have a nice look at this fish. Lovely little patterns and colors on him. Let's quickly get him some oxygen. One last look at our little smallmouth bass. That's now a largemouth and a smallmouth. Good fishing for today. Let's get him back to the water. And off he goes. Best to take your pictures and release these fish. You don't want to keep them out for too long. That one might be a post-spawn bass protecting some of the young. So it's better to get them back in the water. If you mess around too long with them, they might abandon their young and other fish will eat them. So it's good to get them back into the water nice and quick. All right, ladies and gents, I had fun out there walking around, casting around. Not at all the plan I had for this video, but luckily it worked out for me. Managed to get those 2 fish at least. But I've also spent quite a lot of time casting around different lures, looking at how some of the fish are reacting, and I could see some largemouth patrolling around, and it's kind of as if they're looking for beds or mates or something. But I did also find 2 bass in particular protecting their young, and that kind of tells me that we are at the moment in that sweet spot where you have post-spawn fish, pre-spawn fish, and fish busy spawning. Now this is a pretty good time for bank anglers to get out there and try and find these big fish before they move out into deeper waters again. Yes, you can still find bass during summer, but you're more likely going to be finding little 1/4 pounders or something like that. If you're looking for a bigger 3-pound fish, now is the perfect time to get out there and start looking for these fish, because within a few weeks or so they will be done with their spawn and they'll be heading into deeper waters looking for some bait. And I think that's where I'm going to end this video. Still lots of time left and I still need to hike all the way back. I'll do some cast while I walk back, but I think we're going to call this video there. I want to thank you guys for following out here. Please do give me a little thumbs up for catching those fish. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments, and if you're new here, consider hitting the subscribe button, join my community. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Like always, I'll see you next time. There we go guys, on the way back to the car. Making my way back, casting around little Ned rig. You can see another bass behind this one. Another largemouth bass, but a bit smaller one. And there we are. Now I said we're done with the fishing for today, but I still have the camera out. You can still get a nice shot of this little bass. Pale colors on them, but this one has nice fat belly on him. So let's get him back to the water. And off he goes. Still using little Ned rig. This time around it was a peanut butter and jelly one. Got that bass.